The Absolute and Manifestation, Part 3. The whole of this universe, therefore, is, as it were, a peculiar form. The Absolute is that ocean, while you and I, and suns and stars, and everything else are various waves of that ocean. And what makes the waves different? Only the form, and that form is time, space, and causation, all entirely dependent on the wave. As soon as the wave goes, they vanish. As soon as the individual gives up this Maya, it vanishes for him and he becomes free. The whole struggle is to get rid of this clinging on to time, space, and causation, which are always obstacles in our way. What is the theory of evolution? What are the two factors? A tremendous potential power which is trying to express itself, and circumstances which are holding it down, the environment not allowing it to express itself. So, in order to fight with these environments, the power is taking new bodies again and again. An amoeba in the struggle gets another body and conquers some obstacles, then gets another body, and so on, until it becomes man. Now, if you carry this idea with its logical conclusions, there must become a time when that power was in the amoeba and which evolved as man will have conquered all the obstructions that nature can bring before it and will thus escape from all its environments. This idea expressed in metaphysics will take this form. There are two components in every action, the one the subject, the other the object. And the one aim of life is to make the subject master of the object. For instance, I feel unhappy because a man scolds me. My struggle will be to make myself strong enough to conquer the environment so that he may scold and I shall not feel. That is how we are all trying to conquer. What is meant by morality? Making the subject strong by attuning it to the absolute so that finite nature ceases to have control over us. It is the logical conclusion of our philosophy that there must come a time when we shall have conquered all the environments because nature is finite. Here is another thing to learn. How do you know that nature is finite? You can only know this through metaphysics. Nature is that infinite under limitations, therefore, it is finite. So, there must come a time when we shall have conquered all environments. And how are we to conquer them? We cannot possibly conquer all the objective environments, we cannot. The little fish wants to fly from its enemies in the water. How does it do so? By evolving wings and becoming a bird. The fish did not change the water or the air, the change was in itself. Change is always subjective. All through evolution, you find that the conquest of nature comes by change in the subject. Apply this to religion and morality, and you will find that the conquest of evil comes by the change in the subjective alone. This is how the Advaita system gets its whole force on the subjective side of man. To talk of evil and misery is nonsense because they do not exist outside. If I am immune against all anger, I will never feel angry. If I am proof against all hatred, I will never feel hatred. This is therefore the process by which to achieve that conquest through the subjective by perfecting the subjective. I may make bold to say that the only religion which agrees with and even goes a little further than modern researches, both on physical and moral lines, is the Advaita, and that is why it appeals to modern scientists so much. They find that the old dualistic theories are not enough for them, do not satisfy their necessities. A man must have not only faith but intellectual faith too. Now, in this later part of the 19th century, such an idea as that religion coming from any other source than one's own hereditary religion must be false shows that there is still weakness left and such ideas must be given up. I do not mean that such is the case in this country alone. It is in every country and nowhere more than in my own. This Advaita will never allowed to come to the people. This Advaita was never allowed to come to the people. At first, some monks got hold of it and took it to the forests, and so it came to be the forest philosophy. By the mercy of the Lord, the Buddha came and preached it to the masses, and the whole nation became Buddhists. Long after that, when atheists and agnostics had destroyed the nation again, it was found that Advaita was the only way to save India from materialism. Thus has Advaita twice saved India from materialism. Before the Buddha came, materialism had spread to a fearful extent, and it was of a most hideous kind, not like that of the present day, but of a far worse nature. I am a materialist in a certain sense because I believe that there is only one. That is what the materialist wants you to believe. Only he calls it matter, and I called it God. The materialist admits that out of this matter all hope, all religion, and everything have come. I say all these have come out of Brahman. But the materialism that prevailed before Buddha was that crude sort of materialism which taught eat, drink, and be merry. There is no God, soul, or heaven. Religion is a concoction of wicked priests. It taught the morality that so long as you live, you must try to live happily, eat though you have to borrow money for the food, and never mind about repaying it. That was the old materialism, and that kind of philosophy spread so much that even today it has the name of popular philosophy. Buddha brought the Vedanta to light, gave it to people, and saved India. 1,000 years after his death, a similar stage of things again prevailed. The mobs, the masses, the various races have been converted to Buddhism. Naturally, the teachings of the Buddha became in time degenerated because most of the people were very ignorant. Buddhism taught no god, no ruler of the universe. So gradually the masses brought their gods and devils and hobgoblins out again, and a tremendous hodgepodge was made of Buddhism in India. Again, materialism came to the force, taking the form of license with the higher classes and superstition with the lower. Then Shankaracharya arose and once more revivified the Vedanta philosophy. He made it a rationalistic philosophy. In the Upanishads, the arguments are often very obscure. By Buddha, the moral side of the philosophy was laid stress upon, and by Shankaracharya, the intellectual side. He worked out, rationalized, and placed before men the wonderful coherent system of Advaita. Materialism prevailed in Europe today. Materialism prevails in Europe today. You may pray for the salvation of the modern skeptics, but they do not yield, they want reason. The salvation of Europe depends on a rationalistic religion, and Advaita, the non duality, the oneness, the idea of the impersonal God, is the only religion they can have any hold on any intellectual people. It comes whenever religion seems to disappear and irreligion seems to prevail, and that is why it has taken ground in Europe and America.